Hey guys, it's me. I've been away far too long. Work. I had a 9 day stretch with no days off, 1 day off, and then God knows how long the next stretch is. Um, so, oh man, I'm beat. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna last. But I've said that before. But I don't know. I'm thinking 3 or 4 weeks. I'm gonna try to stick it out. Uh, put some money aside. I don't know. Problem is when I have a day off, like today, I had today off. Since my washer dryer broke, I think I've mentioned this many times before. I have to actually drive over to my sister's house to do my laundry. So it becomes a half day affair because it's a half hour to get to her house. I bring, 4 or 5 loads of laundry, whatever it is. Uh, it takes a good chunk of the day. Then I go food shopping. Day's done. I come back, it's evening, and that's my day off. Um, it's $2,000 to basically buy the uh, washer dryer that I have to have for my condo. One of those apartment ones. I only have one outlet in the room, so I can't buy 2 separate units unless I bring an electrician in and have him set up more outlets. So I have to buy those apartment washer dryers, one on top of the other. Can't even buy individual stacking units because I only have one outlet. And there's all of 2 or 3 companies that make those apartment style ones, and they charge an arm and a leg for them. And they're not even very good units. So I have no way to pay for it. I'm not going to put $2,000 on my credit card that I can't pay off. So for a couple of years now, I've been going to my sister's house and doing laundry. It's just that obviously I do it on a day off, and it kills the whole day. And the only reason I'm here now, I've been gone for a couple of weeks. I haven't been able to make a video. My days consist pretty much of work. Um, come home, take a shower, eat dinner, and I have maybe 2 hours in the evening to myself to do whatever. And I try to catch up, watch some DC videos. And actually, Colin Quigley, I actually caught a live broadcast of him doing his DJ thing, and that was good. I don't know, 5, 6 days ago. I don't even remember how many days ago it was, and that was great. Carm was there. I don't know if that music's too loud. And I'm tired, And tomorrow starts. I'd say tomorrow starts another week. It's just endless, because I'll work Saturdays, I'll work Sundays, I'll Monday through Friday, whatever. So I don't really have any semblance of a weekend. A lot of times I don't even know what day it is anymore. And it doesn't really matter. It could be Thursday, it could be Saturday, it could be Tuesday. I don't know. I hate that feeling, and that feeling of you don't know when you're going to get a day off, so you have nothing to look forward to in terms of, saying to yourself, oh, it's just 2 more days and I get a weekend or something like that. It doesn't happen. So that's what's going on, but I have to do a video. And it's not, well, it is. It's a VCLT thanks because the stuff has been pouring in, thankfully, making my miserable life the only thing worthwhile in it now for weeks. And literally the only music that I've really listened to. I have a sleep playlist of droney electronic music that I go to sleep to every night. I used to do a different selection every night, but I created a playlist of about a dozen albums, and I play the same dozen albums now for like a month. I just go to sleep at very low volume to them. But that's stuff that I go to sleep to. The couple hours out of the day that I get to myself have been filled, besides watching a couple, VC videos of my good pals out there, that always makes the day better for me. I've pretty much, the only other thing I've done is listen to the various stuff that my friends have sent me. My last video was Colin Quigley sent me a bunch of stuff, and one of the albums he sent me was a world music, like a pop world music, an electronic techno kind of CD, and he actually forgot and had left the CD out when he mailed it to me. So I got the case, but not the CD. So he said, "Oh, I'll get the CD out to you. I found it in my CD player. Forgot to send it ahead." So when he sent it ahead, in addition to sending that CD, he had already sent me a whole bunch of VCLT. He threw in a few extra CDs on top of that, which is just incredible. He sent a Dave Benoit CD, which I haven't had any of. I think I bought one for my sister, which is very unusual because I don't know where she would have heard a Dave Benoit tune, and she doesn't listen to or like instrumental music. But I remember buying a Dave Benoit CD for her. But I haven't had any of my own. And I don't listen to this kind of stuff a lot, but I did listen to this, and I do like it. I gotta admit, and it hits the spot when you want to hear something that's not ultra challenging. It goes down smooth and easy. It's he's a good player, no doubt about it. There's a bunch of people, studio musicians that have helped him, including Russ Freeman from the Rippingtons, and I hope Michael Landau on guitar. A whole bunch of people that if you read, probably studio musicians, the names all over the place. It's a pretty good album. A couple concessions, a couple like vocal things on there, which I'm not crazy about. But then there's a couple tunes that did surprise me that are less commercially bent, that really surprised me that I like. This is an unusual one. You've probably seen these CDs all over. Carm's done a couple videos on these types of CDs that they don't credit any musicians on. The Amazon Rainforest, at first I thought it was just, it's a 1 hour, 1 track recording. There's only 1 track on here of the Amazon, the natural bird sounds and the nature sounds and all that. It's enhanced with music. But they list nowhere the musicians involved or musician involved creating the music. Nowhere. There's no real booklet inside, but even scanning the back of the booklet, they make absolutely no mention of who's playing on there. And it says that Amazon Rainforest is enhanced with vocal choir, oboe, harp, horns, and strings. And you hear all that stuff. Starts off with harp, ends up the last 20 minutes or so, amongst all the birds screeching and everything. Some nice synthesizer stuff. I'd actually like to hear some of this music without the birds and all that stuff. But there's a bit of a sense of humor, I think, when they put this one together. Because, I don't know, about 20 or 30 minutes into this piece, I heard some absolutely out there horn honking, and all this is while this absolute racket of birds screeching and everything going on is, and I think somebody's pulling our leg a little bit when they made this. This is not a restful album. I can't see anyone putting this on to go to sleep to. It starts off like you would expect. It's a little loud though. The birds and all that stuff are a little bit loud, but at that 20 or 30 minute point, I don't know. It sounds as busy as New York City streets with all the noise and stuff going on. And then there's this really out there, like, saxophone honking going on. And I thought, this is coming from somewhere else. What else is going on? I didn't have the TV on or anything. I turned the sound down, and sure enough, the honking was gone. I turned the sound back up, and the honking came back. So somebody that put this together had a sense of humor. Starts off with harp, very quiet. Like I said, there's vocal choruses in there. I don't know if most of these sounds are coming from synthesizers or not. At the end, I would say we hear this nice, sounds like electronics in the background. It's nice. The last 20 minutes or so is very nice synthesizer stuff. Really bizarre album. Very not really what I expected. And the bird screeching gets absolutely intense at times. The one that I got that he sent amazingly, because this is in addition to all the other stuff that he sent. This is this Beethoven one. This was the most excited out of this batch that I really wanted to hear. I am not an expert in classical music, and I love when I get these things, especially things that focus on one composer. This is just like a 63-minute long compilation. It's got like 5 pieces on there. Not his big hits, not his best known tracks necessarily. I love that intense cover too. And this was the one I was the most excited about hearing, and I've only given it, I had it in the background for one play, and I gave it one intense listen. Really, really good stuff. It's probably, I'm not familiar with this label. I don't even know, it could be an import, it could be a budget thing. It's just called the Ultimate Collection. It's got some, itself, the printing on the disc itself. That's pretty cool. This is really good. You know, this is going to get a lot of spins. Like I said, I'm not an expert in classical music, but I really totally unfamiliar with the pieces I heard on here. They're orchestral stuff, and it doesn't sound budget. It has a really good sound. I'm digging that, and I knew I would. I think I'm digging it even more than I expected. Then a few days later, after Colin sent that, wow, it's an embarrassment of riches here. I got a bunch of stuff sent from Carm out of the blue. Oh, I forgot to mention, Colin sent me this too. And I said, oh wow, a guitar slide. Well, it turns out, and it's really cool. It's got these, you can see the holes inside there? It actually feels really good on your finger. Those little holes that are in there, which I've never seen on a guitar slide before. It turns out this isn't a guitar slide. This is something he brought back from work. I don't know what this is used for, but he knew it would make a great guitar slide. The weird thing is, it actually feels better on your finger than the traditional guitar slides I have because of those holes in there. The way it grips nice on your finger. It's very interesting. Going to make a great guitar slide. And the funny thing is it feels actually better than a real guitar slide. This isn't a guitar slide. The only difference between this and a real guitar slider, it's a little bit heavy. You can tell it's quite heavy. Guitar slides, whether they're metal or glass, tend to be a little bit lighter. It doesn't really affect anything, the heaviness of it. But that's cool, and I forgot to show it. Colin had sent that to me with the first batch of VCLT. He sent. Now I'm sure you can't hear the piano music in the background because, like all good piano albums, the volume goes up and down. Then I get this amazing another batch of VCLT from Carm. He always sends one of these in every package, a radio show that he's recorded and then has transferred to disc. Most of them are quite old, from the 80s. This one is a particularly interesting, really good episode of Hearts of Space from February '06, which is much more current. To me, that's current. 10-year. To me, that's current. But he said this was a particularly good episode, and it's quite a lot of work to copy things from cassette. All these things I believe he recorded on cassette into the computer, edit them, burn them. It's a pain in the ass, I know, because I do it. But Carm always seems to send one radio program with every package he sends. Here's two guys I didn't know. John Mulder and Ken Hall. An album called Spirit Talk, which when I saw the title, I thought it would be kind of ethnic world music. I'd never heard of these guys before. And it turns out, as soon as I saw the lineup, I knew, I love duets anyway, but I knew why Carm sent it to me because it's a guitar and vibraphone album. So really, the only other ones that I know of are Gary Burton and Ralph Towner. I do have a couple obscure musicians that have done, now that I think about it. One other group of musicians, or duo, I think, that have done the guitar and vibraphone thing. This is interesting because the guitar is primarily acoustic guitar on here. Really nice album. Pretty much, it seems to be live. Recorded over like 5 different days, but it appears to be a live thing. Very, very well recorded, though. And they do, a few songs like Autumn Leaves that you've heard of, a Steve Swallow song, Fallen Grace. They do some originals. They do Stella by Starlight. It's quite, actually there's 2 Steve Swallow tunes on here. Keith Jarrett tune, Memories of Tomorrow. A Steve Kuhn tune. The pianist Steve Kuhn. It's interesting, on the last, I have so many coincidences with Carm that I just expect them now. I was reading about Steve Kuhn online, I don't know, about a week ago or so. various albums, reading about various albums, reading various um, uh, reviews of albums, historical, biographical information as well. And just as I was reading it, I get in my email a notification that Carm had made a new video. I guess it would be his last video now. And so I go and I watch the video, and one of the people that he mentions in the video is Steve Kuhn. Those kind of coincidences, I was just reading about Steve Kuhn, are the kinds of things that just happen all the time with me and Carm. Carm and I. Carm and myself. And Carm said, well, there's this book, called What a Coincidence by Susan Watkins. And he said, that talks about these things. I went on Amazon and I read some reviews of it, and I put it in my wish list, which is, I don't know, like 5,000 items, but I have it in my wish list. But a couple weeks later, maybe less than a couple weeks later, what happened is Carm sent it in with the package. He actually sent the book, What a Coincidence. It's not, I'm kind of glad, it's not a thick book. I'm going to be reading this very soon. I can't get the time, and I guess, if I have 20, 30 minutes at night before I go to bed kind of thing, I think that's where because I'm almost afraid to start it because I'm afraid I'll stay up all night reading the whole thing in one shot. So Carm sent that in the package, which was really wonderful. Talk about coincidences, and here's another one with Carm. I am sure I never mentioned this. So in this package with Carm, that Carm sent me, he sends me this CD. Now, I thought Gang of Seven was a band. I knew that, it turns out it's a label, a record label, that William Ackerman had. I don't think he has it anymore. That he created after he sold Windham Hill off. Will Ackerman was the guy that created and owned and ran and sold off the New Age instrumental Windham Hill thing, that had George Winston on there and all those people. And after he sold off, Windham Hill was no longer involved, he created the spoken word label. And I forgot what the name of the label was, but apparently it's Gang of Seven, which I don't recall that being. I know he's got another label called Imaginary Roads where he went back to doing music, but I don't think he does that label anymore either. So Gang of Seven, I thought, well, that's weird, Carm sending me a band. Well, it turns out it's a spoken word CD. Gang of Seven is just the record company name. And I read the name on it, it said Tom Bodett. Well, I'm a big fan of Tom Bodett, but I'm sure I have never mentioned it in any of my videos. I don't know a whole lot about Tom Bodett. I went on his webpage, but he's on an NPR game show. He's radio, on NPR radio. There's a Saturday morning game show called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Tom Bodett is often a panelist on there. And there's something about the way he speaks and his sense of humor that always kind of spoke to me. And I became a big fan of his, went on his webpage. I know he wrote some books, and I haven't picked up any of his books yet. He's probably best known to people that don't know anything about him as being the voice of Motel 6. He's the guy that came up with the line, he does all the radio and TV ads, "We'll keep the light on for you," for Motel 6, the motel chain throughout the U.S. That's how most people know him. I don't think I've ever had any reason to mention him on any of my videos. But I'm quite a big fan of his. Didn't know that he did spoken word. And I'm sure Carm didn't know this either. And he sends me this wonderful 2-disc set of him spoken word. It's humorous, storytelling. I don't know what you call it. And I was always fascinated, but yet I never picked up any of Will Ackerman's Gang of Seven recordings. I always meant to. It's one of those things that I gotta pick up and find out what these things are about. He's done. There's quite a few people that I've heard of that have done recordings for him, including Spalding Gray, Linda Barry. I know I've heard of, and I just never got around to picking any of these up. And it goes all the way back to '92. Wow, I can't believe time goes so fast. 1992. I am really, and this is really interesting. This is particularly, I listen to this at home, both discs. I'm really digging it. Particularly a good thing, I think a good thing for a car trip when you're maybe a little burnt out on music and you're not sure what to listen to. But that coincidence thing just really flipped and freaked me out. This one I haven't even opened yet, but most of the music I have. I was bitching about Bill Evans' You Must Believe in Spring, which is a great album that I have on its original CD issue. I bought the original CD issue, which was a straight re-release, like that ran like maybe 34, 35 minutes of the vinyl album. And I was complaining on probably the last video I made, or the one about Bill Evans, that I knew they had reissued the album with bonus tracks. And it's over 20 minutes of bonus tracks. Things that were recorded at the same session but not included on the original album or the original CD release. And it's like, I got mad because like, here's another CD I have to re-buy because I want to get those bonus tracks. And Carm's like, I'll pick up a copy for you and sent it ahead. So, so Carm sent it to me, which is wonderful. And huge package. Two more things he sent me. Organs in Orbit, which is one of the Ultra Lounge collection. I didn't realize there were so many CDs in the Ultra Lounge collection. These are mostly recordings. Gee, I want to say from the early to mid '60s. I think I got to turn the lights up. I don't even know if it does it venture. I think it may venture a bit into the '50s. 58. It seems to go from about 1958 to '68, and it's mostly cocktail. What do you call it? Lounge, cocktail lounge type of. It's meant to be kitschy and funny and tongue in cheek, and a lot of it is. But I got to tell you, this stuff resonates with me, and I do. I listen to it as music, and I listen to the arrangements because there's charts and big bands and strings and horns involved. This is mostly instrumental, by the way. And it's meant to be kitschy and everything. But this is the soundtrack to my youth. I was born in 1959. And, watching TV, I'm watching movies that are older, that are from 30s and 40s and 50s even, when I was a kid growing up. But the current shows at that time, whether they were sitcoms or game shows or news or made-for-TV movies, the current things were from the 60s. And this stuff, listening to this, it's like, wow, that's the soundtrack to my youth, essentially. They didn't use pop and rock songs so much back then to do the background soundtrack music to TV shows. So, hearing this stuff, when you hear it, it sounds so deep. It sounds like, something from like your grandparents' generation. I guess I'm probably old enough to be a grandparent. But, this is music that was, believe it or not, fresh and new. When I was a kid, the organ was very much up front. Still, it was a hip instrument. Synthesizers weren't really around or in prominence then, or they were a rare thing. And there's a lot of Girl from Ipanema, and there's a lot of, well-known tunes in here done, in a lounge style. But I don't know how tongue-in-cheek these were at the time they were recorded. Really good collection. It kind of makes me nostalgic when I hear it, and I think of all the TV programs that I grew up with and all that, and that's the kind of music they have in the background. And the last thing in this huge, nice package of books and CDs that Carm sent was an album by somebody I've never heard of, Victor Spiegel, Evocation or Evocation. Solo piano. Now, to me, solo piano is a hard sell because it's been done to death. And, there's the problem with pianos is there's no real variation in sound from track to track. So I'm like, there's got to be something in here that makes Carm want to send this to me. I don't know the musician. I've never heard of him, which always piques my interest. It's always interesting when I get somebody I know nothing about. This looks like it came out in 2002. The interesting thing, I don't even know if Carm... See, I really didn't prepare for this. I don't know if Carm even realized this when he sent this to me. But this Spirit Talk album that I spoke to, which is spoke about the vibraphone and acoustic guitar album, has a version of Chick Corea's Spain on there. Probably his best known track, Chick Corea's track, Spain. It's on here too. there's a version of Spain on here on the Victor Spiegel Evocation solo piano. And when I saw that, I'm like, well, that's a bit of an odd choice, because I'm a little burnt out, to be honest with you, on solo piano recordings. And seeing that Chick Corea Spain was on there, I kind of thought I knew the direction of the music. But I was wrong, because this covers a lot of ground. This is a really, really good album. To whatever extent you can hear it, this is what I chose to play in the background. Yes, it does have the Chick Corea Spain piece on there, which if you know it, what can I say about it? You know, there's no supporting rhythm section. It's just solo piano. But there's also like there's ragas on here, things influenced by Indian music, East Indian music. There's something called American Gamelan on here. You know, raga in C, raga in E. A whole bunch of originals and tunes. Some of the tunes are real lyrical. I don't know why it reminded me of Joachim Kuhn, the German pianist, who I really liked his solo piano recordings. He's done some out there ones, he's done some lyrical ones. Some of the pieces remind me of Joachim Kuhn a little bit, who I really like. Then there's the Spain piece by Chick Corea, which is, you know, fairly mainstream. And then there's these, you know, wonderful things where he's influenced by East Indian music. And there's something a little more, the music's very lyrical, but there's a slight, to a couple of the pieces that I really, really love, there's a slight experimental edge to it, almost as if they were in just intonation, like Lamont Young. I have a Lamont Young box set of CDs of piano music in just intonation, which is a different tuning system. And it's actually, believe it or not, probably the first box set I ever bought of CDs. And first Lamont Young thing I ever bought. It was a big deal when it came out. It was like $90 or something. It was really expensive. And I forget how many CDs. There's at least 4 CDs in this box set. And it came in a 12 by 12 LP size box. I have to find it and dig it out, because I thought I had featured it in a video of mine, but maybe I didn't. And a couple of pieces, even though they're not in just intonation, remind me of that vibe, because just intonation has a really weird kind of atmospheric vibe to it that I like. So this was really quite a nice find. Solo piano is a tough sell for me because it's all been done pretty much. But Carm, you hit it out of the ballpark with that. Now I'm trying to keep this under 3.5 hours. So a couple days later, it seems like I don't want to walk out my front door. Every time I walk out the front door of my house, there's a box sitting there. And I'm like, I didn't order anything. And another box that got sent by our mutual, anybody watching my video is probably familiar with Ron Anderson, our mutual resident VC member / musical avant-garde noise genius. I don't know what to call him. Also born in the same year, I discovered 1959. Maybe that has something to do with it. I like him as a person, and I like him as a musician. And, you know, Ron and me going back to 1959, see, we remember hanging out, you know, on the street corners under the lamplights, snapping our fingers, singing doo-wop songs, because that's what the 50s were all about, right, Ron? So Ron sends me 3 of his own CDs, and various settings, intense stuff, though. You're not going to fall asleep to this. The Infusion Red Horse, which is I might be getting these mixed up. That's a trio. Ron on guitar, there's a second guitarist on here, and a bass player. Really intense kind of noisy stuff. But you know Ron, if you watch his videos, you've seen it. There's the very last piece on here is called Peace, P-E-A-C-E. And in the last, like, 2.5, 3 minutes, though, there's this electronic stuff going on, noisy, intense. And all of a sudden, Ron picks up an oud, the Eastern stringed instrument, which I love the sound of. And he plays this oud for the last couple of minutes, and it's like, oh, I wish it would go on for much longer. It's really cool. Really, really nice way to end the Then there's this album with almost no title called, and it's only printed very small on the back. Is it on this line? No, it's four guys: Ron Anderson, Robert L. Pepper, David Tamura, and Philippe Petit. Um, and Dave Tamura is a saxophone player. Ron Anderson plays electric guitar on here. Robert L. Pepper plays electric violin and a Korg synth. Philippe Petit plays turntable, electronics, electric violin. So oddly enough, there's two electric violin players on here. And a couple other electronic manipulations. And it's a live in the studio album recorded on November 23rd, 2010. Another intense thing. Maybe not as intense as the last one. This is a quartet thing live in the studio. And it's called Close Encounters of the Four Minds, live at BC Studio in New York, naturally, on Public ISO Records. He's got some releases on some of these very hip New York-based labels. These are improvisations, and they're hip. I mean, there's intense. I think there's. I have to try to figure out if I'm referring to the right. Yeah, there's 8 untitled improvisations on here. None of the pieces have titles. All recorded in one day. I would love to see Ron do a blog or more frequent videos talking about, I don't know, the creative process or so much when he goes into the studio and he records stuff and he records a new album talking about that. And the last one he sent me, which is Ron Anderson's pack called Secret Curve. I kind of put it's got like an Obi type of strip. This is John Zorn's label. Zadok, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but I know the label because anybody that's it, actually even Pat Metheny's recorded an album on this label, John Zorn's label. They always do a nice job with the packaging on their CDs and album. So this is Ron's PAK, Pack Trio. And they seem to have a lot of red in their labels, in the cover design. This is music that was all composed 2008 to 2010 by Ron Anderson. When was it recorded? Well, obviously it must have been recorded right after 2010. I thought I read a recording date on here. I don't see it now. And this is interesting because Ron sticks to bass guitar on this. And it makes it very interesting because there's no guitars on here. And so sonically, when you listen to Ron Anderson, you're used to hearing that mid-range area where the guitar is. And there's no guitar in here, so it really makes for an interesting album to listen to. Because Ron sticks to bass on here. The pack is a trio. In this case, Ron's sticking to bass. Keith Abrams on drums and percussion. Tim Burns, who I know of and I've heard of, on trumpet. He also plays French horn and some keyboards on here. So it's basically a trio, but there's 5 different guests that appear throughout the album on almost every track. And it almost seems like it's a feature set up for the guests. It seems like the guests get a lot of the fun. They get to be like the solo guy, or to my ears anyway. Anthony Coleman plays piano. So you got the trio with Anthony Coleman on piano. Jerome Nodinger on electronics and tape manipulation. Eve Risser on piano and prepared piano. She plays on 4 tracks. Tom Swafford plays violin on 3 tracks. And those tracks, the violin, pretty much is playing over the trio, the pack trio. And Stefan Zenik, who's a horn player, clarinet, bass clarinet, soprano, bass saxophone, English horn, plays on 3 tracks. And so it's almost like an album set up for the guests in a way of Ron's music, where the pack trio is basically like their supporting structure, even though there's a lot of interplay going on, and it's all very interesting. It's hard for me to say which is my favorite. It's hard. This is very intense. This is not background music. It's all very intense, dark stuff from our resident VC mad genius of whatever kind of music you want to call this. And thanks, Ron. That's really sweet. Great guy. Really nice of him to send that to me. My fellow 1959 brother. So work is going shitty. It would be news if it were anything but. I think I mentioned my good bosses left, the nice people, they left. There's stuff going on, folks, you know. And I'm thinking that I've never worked retail in my life, but it dawns on me that I just saw today when I was driving back from doing my laundry that there's Halloween stores that at least here in the United States, that open up strictly for a couple months around Halloween time, less than a couple months. And rather than stay with this job, I've never worked in retail in my life, and I don't even know if they're hiring. I might go and work in one of the Halloween shops for, you know, these retail stores that open up just for Halloween time, just to make some money, to get out of my job that I have, because I can't get any time off to look for a real job. I might do that. I don't know. It sounds crazy at my age to be working in a retail store, but what the fuck, you know? I don't know when my next day off is. I will do a video if I have anything to do a video on. I had to make a purchase, believe it or not, of I forget what you call it. The shower head in my shower broke, and I had to replace it. And I went on Amazon because I don't have any time to go to the store and shop, and I ordered something, and just so I could get free shipping, I had to spend like another $15 or so. And I don't really have money to throw away. But I bought this book. It's really just about the only thing that I bought recently for myself that's of a fun nature. A Pause in the Rain. Joy Greenberg is the late Chuck Greenberg's wife. Chuck Greenberg was the leader, founding member, and horn player of Shadowfax. You either know Shadowfax or you don't. At one point when she originally wrote this book, more than probably a dozen years ago, she had the whole book online. And I read the entire book online. And I think it's been pulled lately, for years now. And I've always had this is one of those, you know, things in my 5,000 item wish list. And I finally bought a hard copy of it because I do want to reread it. And obviously it's, you know, from her perspective, and there's a lot of things that she doesn't know about the other musicians in Shadowfax, but you know, about what was going on in their minds, or why they left, or why they did this or that. But it's very well written, and I quite, you know, a labor of love that she wrote after her husband's passing. And if you like Shadowfax or any of the musicians involved, it's really quite an interesting read. I've been, you know, without having a lot of time to read, I have been skipping around. There's various sections I wanted to read, and especially anything I could find involving Stu Nevitt, the original drummer of the band. He stayed throughout the band with the history because he also passed away. He passed away before this book was written, so there's no mention of his passing. But I had a bit of an email relationship with Stu for a few years. And I always like to find out anything else I can find out about Stu. Sweet guy. And also originally from New Jersey. So this is one of the few things I bought. Why did I mention it here? I don't know. I'm just trying to stretch this video out and make it as long as possible, so, you know, you're all asleep before it's over. Apart from that, thanks, guys. I have to really thank that you don't have to send me things to be my friend. I'm very appreciative of everything that I receive, all the stuff that I showed, and I'm listening to it on a regular basis. Like I said, this is the stuff, all these things that you see, because I haven't had much free time. All my free time has been spent listening to these wonderful things. And I'm grateful for it. It really, especially in this last, I don't know, month or so, it's been a hard year, you know, and getting this stuff, you know, I open my little front door and there's a little box sitting there, and I'm thinking, I didn't order anything, you know, and then I look at the address from where it's being sent from, and, you know, it just really lightens my day that other people really, it's such a pain in the ass to do because you have to not only buy the stuff and there's the expense of that, and package it and go to the post office because you don't know how much it's going to cost to mail. There's a lot of effort involved in sending a package out, big or small. And I appreciate it. It really has been the only light moments that I've had in the last month or so. It's weird. I have this guy at work that I don't even know, and I don't know well. And this past week, I happened to be in the mornings before, there's about an hour and a half that you're in the main office before you go out on the road. And I happen to be at this one station in the office, and he's next to me. This isn't someplace where I usually work. And, somebody owns their station, kind of. So this guy is very nice, that I don't even really know, says, "Stick to it, Gary. Don't quit. Don't quit." And I'm like, first of all, this guy doesn't really know me well. I've never told him my intention is to leave this place as soon as possible. And it's weird. He kept on saying that to me over the course of different points in this week. And it's like, I never said anything to him about leaving this job. And it's weird. It made me think, is this guy reading my mind? Because he said, "Stick to it, Gary. Don't quit. Don't quit." There's really no reason for me to stay. The job's too physical for me at my age. And if I work there for 20 or 30 years, which I can't do, I'll get, a retirement thing, whatever. But I can't. That's too long. I'll be friggin' 80 years old, So there's no real reason for me to stay. If I'd started younger, maybe. But it's weird. This guy's saying, "Stick with it, Gary. Don't quit. Don't quit." And it's so weird because I never said I don't know him very well at all. He's a very nice guy. And it just made me think, is this guy reading my mind? Because that's while I'm working there preparing my shit for the day to go out on the road, I'm thinking that this could be my last day. If I have a particularly bad day with the manager that's in charge, or it's my last week, or it's my last month, or whatever. And it's weird that this guy would say that, because people that know me better there, that I've spoken to quite a lot more, don't say that to me. They don't say "don't quit." So it's not evident to them my intention is not to stay at this. And here's this guy who doesn't know me, which makes me think, I think this guy's reading my mind. It's freaking me out. Okay, guys, why did I mention that? I just throw out there a little bit of what's going on in my life. Way too long for a video again. I'm sorry. I'll come back, maybe, when I have another day off. I don't know when that's going to be, and I don't know what I'll talk about then. But whatever. Background music supplied by Victor Spiel, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Sunday night. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching, commenting, being great people. I appreciate it. I will speak to you soon or see you in your videos very soon. Take care.